Good morning, Facebook, YouTube, Daily Motion, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for Wednesday, February 11th, 2015, around 5:22 in the morning in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's going to be a nice and sunny day. Highs in the 20s. We might get some snow flurries on Thursday, but nothing significant, but maybe a major storm on Sunday. Still stuck in this snowy pattern. It's going to be tough to break. It might be locked into March. Some news to report: the Dallas Stars beat the Boston Bruins by the score of 5-3, and Miami Marlins are going to host the 2017 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. It's the first time that Miami is going to get the All-Star Game. The only city that has not gotten a Major League Baseball All-Star Game yet is Tampa at Tropicana Field, but I doubt that they're going to have an All-Star Game at Tropicana Field anytime soon. And that's about it on that. My next subject is about the top 10 anything and anything. I've reached the top 10 greatest game show hosts of all time in the United States. It's some of the greatest game show hosts. This is a very impressive list. A lot of big names have been left off because this is the best of the best of the best. And here are the top 10 greatest game show hosts of all time. Number 10 on this list is Jim Perry. Jim Perry hosted game shows Card Sharks and Sale of the Century in the United States, and he also hosted a few game shows in Canada: Definition, Headline Hunters, and Moneymakers. And he was a very, very great game show host, one of the most underrated game show hosts of all time. A lot of people in Canada did not even know he was a game show host in the United States. A lot of people in the United States didn't even know he was a game show host in Canada until the internet came out, and people think Jim Perry's Canadian, but he was born in the United States. He had a very great style of hosting game shows and stuff, and some of his famous quotes is "took a chance and it paid off." And he comes in at number 10. Number 9 on the list of the greatest game show hosts of all time, Tom Kennedy. Tom Kennedy hosted 15 game shows in the United States between 1958 through 1986. His famous game shows were You Don't Say, Name That Tune, Password Plus, The Body Language, The Price is Right nighttime version, and Wordplay. And his real name is Jim Nas, which is his brother was the late Jack Nas, and he changed his name from when he hosted his game shows from Jim Nas to Tom Kennedy because he looked like a Kennedy, the politicians, I think. But Tom Kennedy was a very great game show host, one of the best ever, great style. Number 8 on the all-time list of greatest game shows hosts of all time, Chuck Woolery. Chuck has been hosting game shows for over 40 years. Wheel of Fortune, Love Connection, Scrabble, Lingo, Greed. He was famous for saying 2 and 2, and he was one of the most funniest game shows host ever. He kind of laughed at when he made some mistakes on television and stuff, and he was even a reality show Naturally Stoned on GSN in 2003. He comes in at number 8. Number 7 on the all-time list of greatest game show hosts of all time, Wink Martindale. Wink had an over 40-year career hosting game shows, from his first game show in 1964, What's This Song, to Debt, and his famous game shows were Gambit and Tic-Tac-Toe. Wink had a class and style. He was a very knowledgeable game show host, one of the most liked game show hosts. He comes in at number 7. Number 6 on the all-time list of greatest game show hosts of all time, Bob Eubanks. Bob Eubanks hosted game shows for over 25 years. The Newlywed Game, and he also hosted All-Star Secrets, Card Sharks, Trivia Trap, Dream House, and a few others. Very funny and stuff. Great personality hosting game shows. He almost lost his job hosting the Newlywed Game 2 months on the air because he did not even blink on an episode, and there was talk that Chuck Bellis was going to replace him, but he hit a stride, and which was good because Bob's very funny and stuff. comes in at number 6. Number 5 on the all-time list of greatest game show hosts of all time, Alex Trebek. Alex Trebek is known for hosting Jeopardy, but he's also had a long career hosting other game shows like High Rollers, Double Dare, Classic Concentration, and To Tell the Truth. He's very, very knowledgeable and stuff like that. For many years, he had a mustache, but he shaved it off in 2001. I wish he kept the mustache because that's his iconic look. He tried to grow it back in 2014, but he shaved it off once again. And Alex Trebek is going to host Jeopardy probably into the day he dies. Comes in at number 5. Number 4 on the all-time list of greatest game show hosts of all time, Monty Hall. Monty Hall, the legendary host of Let's Make a Deal. He hosted that show for over 20 years. Plus, he also hosted Split Second and Beat the Clock. He's actually from Canada, and he actually is involved in many other charities and stuff. He's a great deal maker, and he could trip you on if you could take a car or a trip or a zonk. He had that clever hosting style, and he comes in at number 4. Number 3 on the all-time list of greatest game show hosts of all time, Bill Cullen. Bill Cullen's the dean of hosting game shows. He hosted a whopping 23 game shows during his career, from Winner Take All to The Joker's Wild. His famous game shows were like the original Price is Right that lasted 9 seasons, and he also hosted Chain Reaction and Blockbusters and Child Play on Three in a Match, and I Guess, and $25,000 Pyramid. He hosted a lot of game shows produced by Bob Stewart, who was his best friend and who originally worked for Goodson Taunton Productions, but Bob Stewart split off in 1965 as an independent producer, and it seems like all the game shows that Bob Stewart produced, Bill Cullen host. Bill Cullen passed away in 1990, and he's never been honored for Lifetime Achievement for the Daytime Emmy. That's a very shameful, in my opinion. Very shameful. Number 2 on the all-time list of greatest game show hosts of all time, Gene Rabin. Gene Rabin was hosted Match Game for so many years. Before he was actually an actor and a comedian, a sidekick to Steve Allen on The Tonight Show back in the 50s. Gene Rabin hosted Match Game for well over 20 years. Plus, he hosted a few other game shows like Make the Connection and Break the Bank and stuff like that. But he's known for hosting Match Game, very funny host and stuff like that. And when Match Game ended its run in 1982, very surprised that Gene Rabin did not host another big time game show. There was a couple of other game shows like Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour and Break the Bank towards the later career, but he felt very ill-fated in those. It didn't seem right for Gene Rabin to host a couple of other game shows, especially the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, which I heard that he did not get along with John Bauman, and plus the Break the Bank in 1985 was kind of a serious game show, and Gene wanted to add humor to that, but the producers didn't want to. And it comes in at number 2 and number 1 on the all-time list as the greatest game show host of all time, Bob Barker. Bob Barker hosted Truth or Consequences and The Family Game, which was kind of a rip-off of the Newlywed Game, which was produced by Chuck Barris. And Bob was known for hosting The Price is Right for over 35 years. Very, very classy host, famous for saying, "Come on down." And he was probably the very best game show host of all time. And his famous tagline at the end of each and every Price is Right: "This is Bob Barker reminding you to keep control of pet populations. Have your pets sprayed and neutered. Goodbye, everybody." That's what he's famous for saying. And that's about it on the best game show host of all time. We'll be back later. Facebook, YouTube, Daily Motion, Twitter, 2 more video blogs. The first one will be about the state of the Massachusetts Bay Transit Authority. I'm going to tell you what I think of them right now. And the third and final video blog of the night will be about former NHL goaltender Grant Fuhrer. Have a good day, everybody. See you.